Just because you have an LLC, just because you have a business doesn't mean you can write off everything in your life. Everything's a write off until you basically get audited and then you really find out. So it's just doing the tax code is if you take a Glock 45 and you shoot it at the tax code, it's thick enough to where it won't penetrate. And so only 10 of those pages tell you how to pay. The rest tell you how not to pay. There's so many ins and outs and different things that you can do. It's just finding somebody that understands it and knows what to look for. And so just making sure you do things properly and document things properly, because we've seen people think they can write off everything and then they get audited, and it's a big wake-up call.
This is the Fit Investor Podcast, where we talk about how to live a more holistic life of being fit, not only financially, but physically and faithfully. We'll be joined by experts in all these areas to share their experiences and actionable and practical tips so that you can be a fit investor too. So now let's join our hosts, Cale Delaney and Brenna Carls.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Fit Investor. I'm your host, Cale Delaney, and today our special guest is Melanie Sikma. And Melanie is a wife, mother of two, and daughter to CPA and business partner of Byron. She's addicted to coffee as she takes a sip right there. Wants to learn new hobbies, stays active in her local church, singing, writing music, traveling, spending time with those she loves. And she also owns a business called Abundant Life Services, where she helps with life insurance using the tax savings generated from her strategies to fund cash value policies, building a tax-free future, and also donating a portion of the proceeds to help others live their abundant life too. And so we are excited to have Melanie on and explore her journey. So Melanie, welcome to the Fit Investor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Melanie's fresh out of the gym here, so she's all pumped up, ready to go.
Right. Full. Today's arm day.
Oh, all right.
Not arm day for some reason.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think I have good hand strength. So I don't want to get them all callousy. And so I always feel like my hands hurt before my arms hurt.
Right. You wear the gloves or do you just go?
I need to get gloves, but I don't.
Yeah. There you go. That'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good tip.
Yeah. Melanie, why don't you just take us back a little bit and give us a little bit more background on you, and then we'll jump into things from there.
Yeah. So my main business actually is called One Stop Tax Strategist. So we help business owners and investors minimize their tax burden. We also have full service accounting. And then, like you said, with the Abundant Life Services, we found like a lot of people don't have life insurance. And especially if they're family men or women, it's really important to have that. And it's a way that we just talk about the abundant life in Christ. This also allows them to have abundant life financially, but also we donate, like you said, a portion of the proceeds towards just vulnerable people around the world and help them create an abundant life as well. And yeah, so that's what I'm passionate about. I love meshing business and my faith. And we were talking briefly before just about our trips that we have coming up. My real goal that I'm like really wanting to do in the future is to do like networking mission trips where for businessmen and women, and go on trips where you can go do good and spread the love of Christ, but also network and get business that way as well. And we're going on a lot of mastermind meetups and stuff. And it's like, why not just marry the things that we're all passionate about and glorify God in the process? That's something that kind of is passionately on my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I think there's a big gap for that. And just in general, honestly, in the entrepreneurial world, at least from what I've seen, and this is a generalization, but I think there is a bit of a lack of philanthropy.
Yeah.
And not to say that it's necessarily even intentional or anything like that. I think honestly, a lot of us just get caught up in our own stuff and
tunnel vision.
Yeah. So bringing that back out into the light and encouraging people to start opening up not only the pocketbooks, but also their time to start serving and giving back. I think that's an excellent idea. So yeah, I think there's a big need and a big gap in the space for it.
Well, there's no really better problem solvers in the world than entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And to me, like there's so many needs around the world where entrepreneurs, they can put together their brain power and solve a lot of problems that can solve the core of the issue. You know what I mean? So not just putting a Band-Aid on it, but helping people become self-sustainable. That's the real goal from an earthly perspective, but it's like that. I feel like entrepreneurs are really good at problem solving. And so there's lots of problems in the world. So why not put the best problem solvers at it?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
might as well jump right into it 'cause it's along those lines. But why don't you tell us about the trip that you have coming up and your inspiration behind that, and we'll explore
Yeah.
that.
My family, we're going to Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and we're going to visit the Mole Children's Family. They call themselves the biggest family of the world. You said you watched the documentaries, but on Amazon Prime, or even on YouTube, it's called the Mole Movie, Muly. And it's a family that he was a very successful businessman. He started this transportation business in Africa, and he actually was a street kid himself. And he grew up and really made something of himself financially wise. Saw great success, but then basically felt called by God to just walk away from that. And it was an instant walk away. Like he just did it. And then they started taking in street kids in their home to the point that they actually it was hard on their family, but they worked it out. And so now they've helped over 26,000 street kids in Africa, and they've really transformed that area. To me, much more than, it's not just an orphanage, it's so much more than that. And since you've watched the documentary, but they basically have a lot of vegetation, they're building a school, so they're really making a difference over there. So what we're doing, my husband works for the Ministry of Evangelism Explosion, and very 80s name. So he trains and equips leaders and pastors around the world in sharing their faith, and also basically teaching their ministry to share their faith too, or any of their followers. So we're going over there to train all the leaders that teach the kids. So there's over 1,000 kids there right now. And so we're going to go and train the leaders in a tool called Hope for Kids. So we're basically going to be doing that. And then me and my kids, we're just going to probably, because we're bringing my husband's aunt and then this lady that works for EE2. And so we're probably me and the kids are just going to be hanging out with the kids probably most of the time. Being in a training all day for my kid, not going to be that fun, but we're going to go have fun with the kids there. So that's the heart. But talking about the trips, we're dipping our toes in. My husband and I are going to be forming our own nonprofit soon here. And so we're dipping our toes in to see what that's going to look like for future. We want to help vulnerable children of the world. And we actually have a school in Sierra Leone that's named after my husband's mom who passed away. But we're fly the guy that's running that school. We're flying him out to get mentored by Mole because he's so cute. He watches the Mole movie every day. And he says it's just an inspiration because he's running a school of about 300 to 400 kids, depending on the day. Yeah. And they're all like kids that are like, there was a kid that died recently of malaria. And so it's legit like third world, like where the blood diamonds are. They get their arms chopped off and everything. And so he's just seeing this guy, Mole, that's just an inspiration to him. Every day he gets to see what he's doing will make an impact. And I can't imagine being in the everyday. It's rough. Yeah, so it's got a few different realms of the trip and the goals of the trip, but it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay, so that's cool. I didn't realize your husband works for the Evangelization Explosion. Okay, that's excellent. So
yeah.
very multifaceted trip here. So sounds
Oh,
very
yeah. All sorts of stuff. And it's cool. My husband usually he's the one that gets to travel and do these trainings. So I'm excited that our kids are finally now, I feel like, old enough. They're 9 and 7. So they're old enough to now bring along and get to see like different parts of the world.
Yeah. No, I think it's excellent. Giving those experiences to kids is priceless, and seeing in person the way most of the rest of the world lives is very different than the lives we live here in America.
Yeah.
I think hopefully it's an eye-opening and a positive experience for them, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it looking back at that as well. Yeah.
A couple of months ago, they were in the mode of just saying no fair to everything.
Oh.
Fair, not
Yours
fair.
too?
I hate that. So we're like, okay, guys, we're going to a third world country, and you're saying no fair about like dumb things. And so we created, my dad's idea. We created a no fair wheel. And every time they said no fair, they spin the wheel, and it was eat rice for a week. Clean up Boppy's, Boppy's my dad to them, but clean up Boppy's, the dog poop in Boppy's backyard. Like stuff. And they actually once had to spin it because they never
Really?
said it again. Yeah.
Oh, Might have to institute that. Jeez. Yeah, that's like the favorite saying here.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, we're like, okay. And then we also have been making them eat like food that they wouldn't normally eat, like like food that looks gross or anything like that. They're like, we can't go around kids that are like from the streets that are just excited to eat a meal, like, and then have our kids go, ew, that's gross. So we've been practicing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We should make the connection offline, but one of our previous guests as well, her name's Celia Cortez, but her and her husband have a nonprofit that they started and working with vulnerable people around the world.
Oh,
Yeah, they're doing a lot of great things. So it might be a good connection in terms of the
I
kind of
love that.
how to get it started and how that works. So
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, it was good to talk to different people that are like-minded.
yeah, excellent. And they're going to be going to actually Tanzania in a couple weeks to working with them on projects out there. So
That's cool.
yeah, so they've got some experience in Africa as well.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so that's awesome. Take us back then again to your journey with your faith and discovering Christ. Did you grow up in a Christian household, or did you come to Christ later in life, or walk us through that?
So I was raised with, I'd say, Christian values. We went to church, but not regularly. And so I really came to saving faith when I was in college. And I was actually a pretty big partier back in the day. I went to Chico State, which of Chico at the party school. And so it's funny because I actually moved in with my cousin that was a pretty strong believer. And I moved in with her thinking, man, I hope this goes well because my life did not line up with her life. And I'm like, whatever, she'll just deal with it. And so I moved in, and then I was hanging out with this guy that I worked with at the time. And he actually used to be like a drug addict, and then he got saved and then went with YWAM to, I forget, it was some Southern or South American country. But he basically was just, I was just interested in his life. And so I was asking him questions about it. And he actually was avoiding it because he was backsliding and getting back into partying at the time. And I just kept asking him questions. And so it's funny because I was actually like drunk at the time and I was asking him questions. And then he's told me about this experience that he had on his YWAM trip. And it was they were at this church serving, and this woman came screaming, and she came with this dead baby. And it was her baby, and the baby, I guess it was dead she was cooking dinner and then it just died. And she started panicking, but then she heard a voice in her head that said, take your baby to this church and they'll save. And so the baby was dead for 45 minutes before they prayed. And then they prayed for 45 minutes and then it came back to life. And this is a friend that told me, so I like trusted him. And so that kind of just sparked my going, oh, that's like really cool. And then the next day I woke up and I saw my cousin's Bible on the table. And I just asked God, I said, if you're real, would you just speak something to me? And I opened up to Ecclesiastes, a time for everything poem. And I don't know why, but it just spoke to me at the time. It just felt like it was for me at that time. And I truly knew that I was choosing between life and death at that moment. And I knew that if I didn't like surrender to Christ, I knew that I was choosing death. And then in a joyless existence. And then if I chose God, I like knew it was just a choice. And so I just decided to surrender at that moment. And anyway, that's throughout like my pipe and all the stuff that I did that was partying. And my cousin said it was literally like a light switch was flipped.
Wow.
Yeah. I was literally just, and I don't think everybody experiences like that, but I'm an all in type of person, all or nothing. So I think that was just what I needed. And so anyways, yeah, my life was completely different from that point on. Obviously I've had ups and downs in my faith or in my walk with Christ, but yeah, I feel like that was like the moment that I switched. So
Wow. And do you remember how old you were at that
I
time?
literally right before I turned 21, because I remember planning my 21st birthday and I ended up going to Bible study instead.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story. So then after that, did you get baptized right away, or did you wait a little bit, or?
Yeah, probably within the first couple months I got baptized, invited my family up and got baptized. Yeah. That was cool.
Excellent. Yeah. And has your faith had any impact in the journey of the rest of your family?
I think it's more like a slow process, but definitely I've had conversations and stuff. But just, yeah, there's a moment where I probably was too forceful. And then now I've learned, even through evangelism exposure and our training, I learned, okay, got to just chill out and just, my mind, I'm the type of person, if I believe something, I just couldn't imagine I wanted it so bad for them.
Right.
And because it totally just changed my life. So I'm like, why wouldn't you want it? You got to give it up to God and leave it in his timing. I've definitely seen people's lives be impacted, but the rest is up to God in that way.
Sure. Yeah. He
Mm.
plants seeds and he makes them grow.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of the seeds, I always like hearing people's testimonials, and because oftentimes when you look back, you can start to see those seeds that were planted along the way by others. And then can you see, looking back at your life, perhaps people or things that were placed in your life prior to your
Totally.
version? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I think my cousin played a big role in my life just from my childhood on. She got into a really bad car accident in high school, and she just had a really great attitude about it. That was cool. And I think that impacted her life, like in her walk with Christ. But just, yeah, just there's just little seeds. I also see like God's protection in a lot of stuff. Looking back, and I'm like, man, some of those choices that I made, thank you, Lord. So a lot of different things like that. Definitely see God's hand in all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to one of the Christian radio stations yesterday, and their guest was, I'm sure you've probably heard of him, but like Dr. Gary Chapman, five love languages and all that.
Yeah.
Uh, but he was telling his story, and I thought it was really funny in that he was saying when he and his wife first got married, like they had this plan that they were going to be, or more specifically, he was going to be like an international missionary.
Yeah.
And they were making their plans, and then his wife became very ill, and they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to travel, and he ended up getting into the psychology and all that stuff. And it was like, what was it, 20 or whenever it was, like 20 or 30 years later, that he actually ended up writing his most famous book, the Five Love Languages.
Yeah.
And he was reflecting back, and like he said, there was a pivotal moment where the book is now in 50 different languages or something like that. And there was a pivotal moment where he was receiving one of the new books that was in a new language.
Mm-hmm.
And they just realized that, man, our plan was to be international missionaries. That was our plan. And maybe we would have had some small impact if we did that.
Yeah.
But look what we're doing now. We have millions of these books around the world. International, exactly. And that's what he was like. This was God's plan. He's, man, our plan was so small and short-sighted.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that God prevented that.
Yeah.
The huge impacts that we've had through his work and
Yeah.
spreading this message, spreading our book across the world in all these different languages. And so I thought that was like just an awesome example of, yeah, we can have our plans, right?
Yeah.
God's plans oftentimes are much, much bigger.
Yeah.
So it may take a while for us to see them in fruition, right?
Yeah, that's cool. I know when my husband and I first got married, I was planning on just being in the ministry with him and traveling with him. That was the plan. And because we had just, right after we got married, we went to Fiji for, it was like a 6 to 7 week internship over there with Trey. And so I was just praying about what we want to do with our lives. And so we jumped into full-time ministry after that. And we wanted to wait about 5 to 8 years to get pregnant. And I was pregnant within 5 months and on birth control. Honestly, I was pretty upset. Like I did not, and it took me a really long time to feel like okay about it. Like trust, like this is God's plan. But I was not happy. And because then I was the one that actually wanted to travel. My husband, I don't think he really cared that much. And I was the one that was more like adventurous and wanting to do all those things. And I was the one that had to stay at home. Like this is lame. But it's like seeing I think that was God also just like having me trust him. There's things that you learn and it's never easy to learn those lessons. But usually when you're uncomfortable is when you're learning and growing. And that's where you just have to trust God. And yeah, I think that was mainly what it was. It's just for me to just go, okay, I surrender. No ways.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. So what happened after that then? The, I guess, missionary dream, I guess, was more or less squashed,
Yeah.
back burner there.
Yeah.
Yeah, where did it go from there?
I was just a stay-at-home mom for a little while, and then I was finishing up my teaching credentials, so I got that. I used to be a teacher in the juvenile hall, and
Oh,
like the at-risk youth and stuff. And then, yeah, it was like, okay, I'll finish up my credential and then just stay at home. And then we just lived off of just support for a while with people that donated to the ministry. And I'm an antsy person, so I didn't really like being at home. So I went back to work and taught like part-time. And then my dad actually, he owned a CPA firm, not One Stop, but a different firm. And he needed help because they were partnered with Tony Robbins at the time. And I was a personal trainer back in college, and I was Valley Total Fitness. I was like their top salesperson for the nation. And so he knew I had like experience talking with people. And so he recruited me. I didn't even know what an S Corp was at the time. And I like joined on, learned some stuff. And then now I know quite a bit about taxes. Pretty cool, like how much you can learn. That was probably about six to 7 years ago. And then we formed One Stop as just, I actually really liked what I was doing. And then we formed this as a way to serve more people because his firm was turning away quite a bit. And so we wanted to be able to help more people just in different walks of their entrepreneurial journey. And that's where this came about. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, cool. Who knows where Rod's going to take it? But it's funny. I never thought I am entrepreneurial. So it's cool to see how God steered that way. And then you get distracted. Like you said, it's easy in these entrepreneurial circles to get distracted. And so really, I feel like God now is just teaching me, okay, it doesn't have to be separate. It can be together. Like your faith, that purpose of your business is to be the fuel, basically the way and method of honoring Christ and sharing Christ with the world. So it can make an impact that way.
yeah. No, I love that. So how do you do that? How do you try to integrate your faith and your business and everything?
Yeah, for me, I'm not the only partner in this business. So that to me, it's just, I have to do whatever everybody agrees with on that side. But my husband and I, we're forming our new nonprofit called All In International. We want to help vulnerable children of the world. And so my real goal, like I said, is just to marry the connections that I have on the business side of things to make an impact. And what I actually think would be really cool is finding Christian, this is just me like talking out or thinking out loud, but I think it'd be really cool to find Christian entrepreneurs that want to minimize their taxes, but then they can donate the tax savings that we get for nonprofits, because we save an average of $70,000 if people are netting $250 and up. And that's an incredible amount to donate, even if they donate a portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have some strategies on the capital gains side of things that does involve charities. And so being able to utilize those as well.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And then also we have doing like an affiliate program, but like for good. So if people like come on board, maybe we could donate a portion toward the nonprofit. That, I don't know, I'm just thinking like of different ways that we can think of ways to like pair what we're doing to create, like we create cash flow. That's what we do. How can we cash flow for good?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like we were talking about in the beginning, there's such a big need for it in the space and the world. And yeah, what better place to start than with the entrepreneurial community?
Yeah.
It's excellent. It has a lot of very good potential. So I look forward to seeing where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
It's funny. You were reminding me of a friend of mine who some similarities in the journey. She started out as a missionary and now she's a business owner as well. But she was telling me that she went to missionary school, and towards the end, like the class was being asked, okay, so what do you guys want to do now? What's the next step? What do you guys want to do in life? And everybody there was, talking about the different, needs that they wanted to serve, or this, that, or the other thing. And I was the only person to raise my hand and say, you know what? I just want to make a lot of money and support the missionaries here. That's a huge need too, right? Because like you were saying, you lived off support as missionaries for a bit, and you need both sides of the coin there. All right. We need the people who their calling, their talent is to be the hands and feet of Christ in the field. And then you need the people who are going to generate the resources. That's their calling and on to pair the two together.
Like Mary in the Bible, she supported Jesus. If you look
Right.
back, it's very biblical, and you need people to support. Yeah, like the people that we'd go around and we'd have to raise support. It's like the people that give $1,000 a month, or those are the people that were entrepreneurs. And it really like would make a huge impact. Like it would allow us to go share the gospel with people and train people. And it is equally, they're just as involved in the ministry. They don't necessarily get to be, like you said, the hands and feet, but it's happening because of them. It's not because of their obedience. You need it all. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's, and I'm just maybe conjecturing here from my opinion, but I think that's maybe where some of the maybe lack of enthusiasm for philanthropy comes from, is that, especially if it's just giving of resources, money or goods or whatever, we oftentimes don't see necessarily what the impact it has. Yeah, okay, we know that it's going to this organization, and yeah, okay, they're doing these types of things, but it's not really tangible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having, and of course, I don't know how you would really do this at scale, having it where people who donate can be a part of it somehow, or at least feel it somehow, know what that impact is that they're having. I think that would generate a lot more encouragement and enthusiasm for it. Know what I'm saying?
That's where that's why we really like Molly, where we're going, because my husband said, so he went last year, and they have a hotel. So it's like third world country, but like nice. It's like glamping for mission trips. But it's like a great way for people to get, like, we're going to call them vision trips, or we're going to bring people on it. They're going to get to see. And what we're really trying to do, this is just one aspect of it, but we really want to not franchise, but duplicate what Molly's doing, but in other areas of the world, because he's already got the systems in place. He's a very brilliant businessman, and duplicating that. And so that's where we're like trying to, if we can bring our donors and bring people that want to be involved, they can see it, they can get a hold of the vision and see what really is happening. And then obviously like videos and all that stuff, but you can't beat being there.
Hey guys, it's Brenna Carl, CEO and co-founder of The Mortgage Shop. When I'm not spending my time searching for the best pizza in town, working out, well, because of pizza, or fighting sharks, as Kale likes to say, I spend my time educating clients on the best investment products that will help them build generational wealth, and making sure their loan process is as smooth as warm butter on a piece of toast. Call us today to get started with your investment journey at 800-816-7982, or, to talk more about pizza. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, there's so many opportunities.
I know, it's cool. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. I was just thinking this morning, I'm like, it just flies by, and you just to be so intentional, because it's so easy to get busy. And I was thinking about it because we're actually thinking about homeschooling our kid. So it's like, I'm like, just thinking like, it just flies by. So if you can you have to be so intentional to spend it well.
So
One
true.
of my biggest fears would be to look back at my life and wish I would have lived it differently. So just have to think day to day, what's the outcome that you want? And then what can you do to get there?
Yeah. No, gosh, yeah, it's so true. I just turned 40 a couple days ago. And
Oh, happy birthday.
yeah, thank you. And, but man, yeah, that's always on my mind of
Yeah.
time does go and days go by, and you're in the same place. Sometimes you feel, and so I get a lot of angst about that sometimes. And sometimes I look at the opposite side of the coin too, and to try to maybe just to try to make myself feel better. But like looking at some of the patriarchs in scripture, and just seeing sometimes the time that they had to wait before God's plan really took fruition in their life, because I get impatient with myself, and just of where, gosh, I want this to happen, or I want that to happen, and it takes longer than you want. Focus on God's time and not my time. And you just look at, like, one of the stories that always inspires me is Joseph. All the trials and tribulations that he went through over a period of, well, I think it was 16 years or something like that, from the time he was sold by his siblings into slavery to the time that he became more or less the ruler of Egypt, right? Or Moses, from the time that he left Egypt when he was running away after killing someone, that God called him back was 40 years, right? And then another 40 years of wandering in the wilderness.
Yeah, and some people will never get to see it even. Like,
Yeah.
that's where, yeah, you just got to trust and just be obedient. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So that's an area that I struggle with, but I try to look for inspiration, at least in those stories of
Mm-hmm.
time is not my time, and trying to find peace with that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you were a personal trainer as well with Valley.
Yeah.
He's number one in the nation, huh?
Yeah, and sales.
I'm
So,
saying. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
wasn't really like trying anything special. I was just excited to do it. That's how I am. Excited. I have to like truly believe in what I'm doing. And I can't sell anything that I don't believe in. And luckily with personal training, you're selling yourself basically and your ability to train people. So yeah, fun.
So were you, and again, where did fitness come into your life? Like, were you big into sports or?
Yes, I grew up swimming and playing water polo.
Oh,
Uh, I actually, yeah, pretty into water polo. My mom was intense getting us in that. So I was an alternate on the national team in high school. So that put me probably about like top 20 in the nation. And then I got burnt out by the time I got to college. So you didn't want to play in college. And then, but I feel like the fitness and just all that, like I love doing things. And so that always carried with me. And then, yeah, I've always just worked out. I studied kinesiology and exercise science in college. I actually originally I wanted to open up my own weight loss camp and just got steered away from that. I actually worked at one in New York once and it's sad. They ran it like a business and they're like losing like 30 pounds in a week. And it was not good, like not healthy. And I just don't like, and obviously you could do your own thing differently, but it just steered me away from that. Went down a different path.
oh, all right. So then what's your passion now? Is it weightlifting or?
I love variety is what I love.
All right.
Yeah. So I do weightlifting. I have a really great gym here in town. It's called, they just changed the name actually. It was Ride 209. And now Legacy Activity Center or something around those, LAC. But it's a really cool gym. They have all different classes. So they have spin, they have yoga, they have Pilates, they have weightlifting, bar, all sorts of stuff. So I just take a variety of classes.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah.
today was Thursday, so let's see those guns. Come
Oh,
on,
yeah. What do you like to do?
weightlifting. That's
Yeah. That's your
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, I'm boring when it comes to it. I was never big into sports. As a little kid, yeah, I played a variety of sports just because,
Yeah.
parents make you
Have
play.
you?
But I was never very good at any type of sport. I never really tried either. But so when I was 14, I was introduced to weightlifting and I really enjoyed that and the physical effect it can have on your body and it makes you feel good. And so, yeah, I started then and never stopped. And I would do some sports in high school and college, but it was more like an ancillary type thing, more so just for like more
So-
exercise. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really in it competitively. It's something else to do.
Yeah.
So weightlifting's been my thing. And I actually, for my 40th birthday, I had set out a challenge to our Fit Investor community and my network of my challenge was that I was going to deadlift 100 pounds for my 40th. Right.
Wow.
And so I was asking people to pledge whatever, $40 or $400 for
Yeah.
3 that I get.
Yeah.
So I did the challenge yesterday. I actually got 6 reps. So it was actually,
Nice.
yeah. And so we got, so it's pledge whatever it is, and then I'll match it.
Yeah.
And actually it was much better than I expected. So we're going to be donating a total of like over $13,000 that we got for it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Worked out pretty well, but yeah, so weightlifting's just been my thing. Just, I don't have much variety. It's become such ingrained part of my lifestyle, and routine that it's very hard for me, which is a blessing and a curse, but it's very hard for me to give that up to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I wouldn't mind having some more variety, but it's just mentally, it's very hard for me to do that.
Yeah. More super easy. So that's the only reason I have to have variety. Otherwise I get bored and then I don't want to go. So I have to have it. So that's why I like the gym that I go to. But then other people like yourself, the routine is probably comforting, like a good steady
Right.
peaceful life. Yeah.
No, exactly. So now being a mother, a business owner, a woman of faith, a fitness enthusiast, how do you try to instill these values, these passions with your children now? What is your hope? What is your vision for your children?
My hope is that they just get invited along and they just enjoy it with me. I don't know. I feel like if you force it too much, and that's my philosophy. If you force it too much, it just becomes like something they don't want to do.
Right.
So it's just inviting them along the process and just hoping that they enjoy that. That's the goal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think you're right. That's probably a better way to do things.
Yeah. Like with fitness, I'm probably into it because my mom always has, both of my parents have always been very active. My dad did more like mountain biking, hiking. He did like abalone diving. He's pretty active in that stuff. And then my mom, we always went to the gym together, even in high school. Like even when I was a rebellious teenager, we always went to the gym together. And so I saw that it like just a way to just build a relationship regardless of anything else.
Right.
And so I think it's the cool thing for that. So yeah, my mom for her 60th birthday, no, wait, was it 60th? No, it was birthday. She ran a marathon with me and my sister. So we all ran our first marathon together.
No.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
She's 63 now.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was when I was in college. So maybe it was when she was 50. Yeah. And I cried during the whole thing. I didn't train right. So I recommend doing a marathon and not training properly.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
That was cool.
Are
And then
you, no,
What?
sorry.
I was
Go
just saying, my sister found out she's super fast during that. So then she actually went on to the Olympic trials for marathon running. So it's cool to do that all together for our first one. And then she like took off with it.
Wow. That's interesting. So are you a runner in general or no?
No, I'm not. I always say, so I was really good at water sports. I always say I'm not a land animal naturally. I'm better at water sport naturally. And if I did anything, I'd probably be a better sprinter or some other stuff like that. Like I'm not an endurance person, I don't think.
That's it. But like water polo, and this is probably just because I'm not a good swimmer at all, but that just looks like insanely hard. Like,
It is. I didn't realize it until I got out of shape. And then I got back into the pool and I'm like, it's very difficult. But I quit because I didn't like that I had man arms, I called them. And I'm like, what if I find my husband in college? I don't want to have man arms. And then I was thinking if that's why I don't want to play, I don't like it that much.
that's scary.
You get big arms.
I can imagine. So I'm just curious because you have to stay afloat the entire time, right?
Yeah, that's the easy part though. It's literally like sitting. That's not hard. When you're in shape for it, it's so easy. The hard part is that people are like, it's rugby in the water almost. Like you're like wrestling while you're playing.
Gosh, yeah. See, I can't even imagine. Like I said, I especially when it comes to floating, I sink like a rock. So I can't even imagine
Yeah.
like just trying to stay afloat for that period of time.
Yeah. I was a competitive swimmer. I started swimming when I was like, I think 3 or 4 years old. And then I think we started year round when I was, I don't know, like 6 or 7. And then I was my daughter's age. Actually, I was 8 or 9 years old when I started playing water polo. And I was the only one not in high school. So I was like this tiny little 9-year with a bunch of high schoolers. And so we got coached. The reason we got into it is we had Irvin Zader was our swim coach, and he was the world's best water polo player in the 56 Olympics from Hungary. And so it's a really interesting story. He basically they were at war and they had to play the gold medal game against the country that they were at war with. And he got punched in the eye and he was there. It's known as the bloodiest water polo match. And yeah, because he was bleeding and he had to get out. He didn't even play the gold medal game and he was still the MVP at the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was really cool. So he basically got us into it. And so we had good coaching and started young.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you where that came from because I guess you don't hear about water polo all that
Random,
much.
yeah. In California, it's a little more popular, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get our kids into swimming and at least be proficient in swimming. I wish I could swim. I guess I could take lessons
Yeah.
at this, but it sounds difficult. But yeah,
It's gotta be the best workouts ever. Like you burn so much calories. It's a good core workout, and you are really hungry when you're done. So
well, even just practicality wise and safety wise, just to be able to know how to swim,
yeah,
you can't really go wrong with having that skill.
yeah, nice. It's nice, especially when your kids know how well.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. So I want to, as we get towards the end here, I'd love exploring your journey. You have so many interesting things about your life. But I want to leave our audience with some things from your profession here, being a tax strategist. And of course, a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs and real estate investors and things of that nature. So maybe just give us a little bit of, I don't know, what are maybe some common questions that you get for newer entrepreneurs as to how to properly plan for taxes, or just some common tips or things like that you think?
Yeah. I'd say one thing people always ask, what's something that I need to do if I'm starting a business? And then a lot of people ask questions around the entity structure. If you're doing, as you teach people, it fix and flips, correct? Is that the biggest
We get a variety, but mostly is probably going to be short-term rental.
Rental, yeah. So with short-term rentals, you're going to want probably at least an LLC just to have that liability shield, or have a good umbrella policy, one or the other. And then basically with that, you just want to have a separate bank account, separate credit card for all your business transactions. That keeps everything separate, keeps it easier to track. And then with short-term rentals, the cool thing, one, if you have enough to justify any type of marketing expense. If you have kids, you could put them on the payroll, pay them $14,600 a piece. My kids are my models, so we'll be taking some modeling pictures in Kenya probably. But so that's one thing. And then it depends. Like we'll look at different lower tax brackets around you, how we can utilize those and leverage those. It just depends on where you're at in your journey. But we actually have a tax essentials course that I could share out for free if people want to text my work line. You could do 209-924-4718. And if you guys just mention this podcast and mention the course, I'll get that your way for sure. And that just through all the ins and outs of what you need to know tax-wise. What are some strategies that we use to save our clients an average of $70K a year if they're netting over $250, but just the ins and outs of different things to look for as you're growing your business.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That'd be excellent. What about, are there any common, perhaps misconceptions about taxes that you run into?
I think a lot of people that I find that are just starting out, they think just because they have one rental, now they can wipe out all of their taxes. And that's not the case. And just because you have an LLC, just because you have a business doesn't mean you can write off everything in your life. Everything's a write-off until you basically get audited, and then you really find out. So it's just doing the tax code is, if you take a Glock 45 and you shoot it at the tax code, it's thick enough to where it won't penetrate. And so only 10 of those pages tell you how to pay. The rest tell you how not to pay. There's so many ins and outs and different things that you can do. It's just finding somebody that understands it and knows what to look for. And so just making sure you do things properly and document things properly, because we've seen people think they can write off everything and then they get audited, and it's a big wake-up call. So I'd say that's a big misconception. And then one tip too, if you're doing short-term rentals, if you do have a W-2, I'm sure you've talked about this before, the short-term rental loophole. Being able to take the depreciation and accelerate that, you get the benefits of a real estate professional outside of having to do all the hours. So that's a great way to do, at least build your portfolio. Even if you don't want to do short-term rentals for a long time, it's a great way to do it. And then the first year, and you take the accelerated depreciation, and then you can turn it into a long-term rental after that. That first year, it's like a really great way to offset your taxes. And then you just use that to build your portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's such a powerful tool there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I love what you said about just how to look at taxes, because that was one of the big eye openers for me too. And I think I had heard a similar thing from Tom Wheelwright, because he said, look at the tax code as a series of incentives, not a series of penalties.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people we look at it as taxes or penalties, but just like you said, if you look at the tax code, you said 10 pages are the actual how to pay. The rest of it is how not to pay. And that's the perfect way to look at it. follow what
Yeah.
the government wants you to do in terms of tax incentives, and you will reap
Yeah.
the rewards of it. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest misconceptions out there, and how we should be looking at taxes. So
Yeah,
excellent.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Melanie. I really appreciate you sharing this time and your journey, and really, again, really loved hearing your story. So many interesting things, and I really look forward to hearing about your trip after you come back
Yeah.
and seeing what happens with the nonprofit and all these cool things that you have in the works here. Create that, and hope to keep updated. So
Yeah. For having me.
absolutely. And I know you already shared your number, but maybe you can do that one more time and just share what is the best way to get in touch with you if our listeners want to find out more about your tax services or your nonprofit or any of these things.
Yeah. You can, the easiest way is probably on Instagram at Melanie Sikma. And then my number, once again, is 209-924-4718. You can call or text that. But we also offer a free tax assessment. So if anybody on here needs some tax help, wants to just see, we give a second opinion. We say you get a second opinion on your health and all other things. So if you want a second opinion, I'll tell you if your tax professional is doing a good job or if you don't need somebody yet. But I can just quickly ask a few questions and see if you have any areas to save. And so that's something we offer. So if you'd that, just hit me up and be happy to schedule that after
Great.
my trip. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Please do reach out. She's obviously got a lot of knowledge and a lot of value to share here. And once again, thank you so much, Melanie. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for another episode of The Fit Investor.
All right. See ya.